You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan England, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit Hiring System, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a Titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. Hey, I'm your host, Ryan England. Welcome back to another episode of Titans of the Trades. Today's Titan is in an industry that I don't spend a lot of time in. I learned some things today. I'm sure you will as well. And it was a good opportunity for me to talk to somebody and just see how they're thinking in other industries. And so today's guest is a third generation oil and gas business owner. And we're going to talk a little bit about drilling. We're going to talk a little bit about building teams. We're going to talk about the mindset that we need to have if we want to develop a team of A players and rock stars. And so there's just so much here, so many nuggets of wisdom. So get ready to take some notes. I want to introduce today's guest, RJ Burr with Panex. And we're going to talk about some amazing things that he is doing in the oil and gas space. RJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ryan, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. And I've really enjoyed the last 10 minutes or so that we've gotten to talk. There were so many times I wanted to hit record. So I wrote some notes down. So we're going to share that. So for you listening right now, you're going to get to hear what RJ and I were talking about in the green room before I hit record, because he's got such a wealth of information and just the way he looks at things is so great. So RJ, before we jump in though, tell our listeners a little bit about you, what your background is, and why you're doing what you're doing.
Well, my name's RJ Burr. Panex is my company. We're based in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we're an American oil company. We produce American oil. I'm third generation. My boys are now fourth generation getting in the business, and this is all we've ever done. And really, what we kind of been on a mission for here the last couple of years is once you jump in and start doing a little research, you realize how little most people know about the oil industry. And oil is really, it's the most important resource humans have ever utilized. It's created more wealth. It's created more upward mobility. It's changed the human condition for the better more than any product we've ever used. And now, am I saying oil is perfect? No, we've had our bad days. However, when you weigh the good versus the bad, it's really not even a comparison as to what oil has done for humanity. And to see people so flippantly talk about getting rid of oil, well, let's truly understand what you're getting rid of before you jump on board, because you're talking about a complete change in your life if you want to live without oil. And with all of this, you know, it's funny, you look at anytime I'm speaking to a room, the first question I ask them is, hey, by show of hands, how many of y'all have ever participated in the oil business? And inevitably, you're going to get a handful of them that raise their hand. And I say, now, you know what should surprise you? Everybody in this room should have your hand raised because we're all in the oil business, whether you want to be or not. We're all paying for it at the pumps. We're all paying for it for its products. We're all in the oil business. Well, what we're able to do is we're one of the few companies out there that can actually get that flow of revenue from continually going out to get it to turn around and come back to. That's what we do.
Nice. Yeah, you were telling me, the oil industry, and I know this having grown up around plastics and everything and what my dad did, that, you know, oil is such a critical resource for so much of our lives, and so much of our lives would be different if we didn't have any oil. Like, I mean, what'd you say? Stone Age, I think you said.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of misinformation about it. I think there's a lot of people that don't fully understand it. And as much as I'd love to talk about the oil industry, I'm sure that some of those nuggets will come up. But one of the things we talked about early on, or when we were in the green room, was that people, right? People in the trades. You had made you shared something with me about how it's not the big companies that do all the oil stuff. It's all the smaller guys. I'd love for you to talk to me a little bit about that. Share a little bit about that piece of the oil industry, and then also some of your philosophies on hiring the best people and creating the best teams. You gave a great analogy that I would love for you to share with our listeners.
Well, basically, when it comes to oil, if you were to randomly grab a person in this country and just say, hey, name me an American oil company, most people's minds would immediately go to Exxon, would immediately go to Chevron. They'd go to the majors. Yeah. When in truth, that's not American oil. 83% of the oil, 90% of the natural gas, and more than 90% of the wells drilled are drilled by roughly 9,000 independent companies that average 12 employees or less.
Wow.
That's American oil. Now, yes, there are some large independents in there. Don't get me wrong. There are some massive independent companies in there. However, the vast majority of our oil and gas is produced by mom and pop companies. And so when you look at the competition, that's really your competition in the industry. Now, where it comes to the point we were talking about earlier, what is the one thing that gives one company the edge over the other company when you're playing on essentially a level playing field with all these companies? I'm not competing with Exxon. I'm competing with companies just like me. And so what gives me the edge? Well, it's the people you hire. It's the people you have in the field doing the job for you. If your people in the field aren't any good, guess what? Your results aren't going to be any good. And so I think the analogy you're talking about is there's a reason the Yankees are the Yankees and the A's are the A's. It's because of the personnel you put on the field. And that's why, heck, when you look at our people, I think they're the best in the business. On the field we're in right now, which is difficult drilling. That's one of the reasons we love the areas we're in, is because it eliminates a lot of the competition. Most companies don't have the intestinal fortitude to drill these wells. Well, we do. Well, why do we? Our crew. We have faith in our people. And we drilled 11 wells for the partner so far and put 10 of them into production. And so, I don't know, you tell me, are our guys good enough? And so that's how important the people in your business. Yeah. Because when somebody makes the decision to invest their money, when somebody says, here, Jed, go to work for them, that's one of the most, that's probably the most sacred decision that can be made in business. Somebody taking their hard-earned money, something they didn't probably get easy. They had to sacrifice, they had to bust their butt for that money. For them to take that and trust you with it, man, what bigger can they do in business? And so when somebody does that, it's now my responsibility to give them the best shot to make as much money as they can. That's what they hired me to do. And in order to do that, I have to have the best people working.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about it. We work with a lot of construction companies, a lot of commercial and residential service contractors. And when your client gives you that money, they're expecting you to deliver a great product, which is exactly what you're talking about. And if you don't have the best people out there, it's going to be a real challenge for you to do that. Now, I do know that there are some companies out there that they don't have the best people. Maybe they've subscribed to the idea that, oh, hiring's hard, no one wants to work. And so they just do it the hard way, right? They put more controls, they babysit more, they do more of those things. That's not what you're talking about. Like when you get accepted to play and you get a contract with the Yankees, like there's an expectation that's set of you wearing that jersey. But I can imagine there are some people listening right now and going, hey, RJ, that's awesome, but I don't have the budget that the Yankees have to pay the highest wages, to recruit the best people. So that analogy sort of falls flat with me because I can't be the Yankees. What do you say to that?
Then you've got to be the Yankees. I mean, if you've got to do it yourself, look, that nobody made you start this business. Nobody put a gun to your head and said, hey, you're going to do this for the rest of your life. You made that choice. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit here and woe is me? I can't. Now, I'm not saying it's not hard. It's rough. Heck, I've had rough moments in my life where I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. And you're laying in bed, tossing and turning on exactly what, and it comes to, heck, you're the one that has to carry that torch. Now, hopefully, as you carry that torch, eventually you start finding part at your team as you go. You're not going to hire all of them at once. It's going to be one at a time. Yeah. Eventually, you're going to get that one person you can lean on that does more. Well, then you're going to put that person in a position of responsibility. You're going to get somebody under them. And then you're going to get somebody to the next to them. And you're going to slowly build your team. This isn't something that happened overnight. Yeah. It took us a long time to build to get to this position. And so if you have a lack of talent or if you have a lack of employment pool, then you've got to be the one that does it. You're the one that has to make that sacrifice. And look, one of the reasons I love sports is you keep score. And one of my favorite coaches was Vince Lombardi. And when he was talking about winning, and I'm going to paraphrase here, it's not the exact quote, but he basically said, look, everybody wants to win. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody wants to win when you step on the field. What determines who wins is the winners are willing to do what the losers are unwilling to.
Yeah.
Well, if you morph that to business, successful people are willing to do things that unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. You know, my wife and daughters, they're out of town right now. They're down in Florida on fall break. I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Why? I have work to do. Would I love to go down to Florida and hang out with them and sit on the beach for a week? Yeah, I'd love nothing more. However, I can't do that because I have responsibilities here. Yeah. Well, if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, how successful do you really want to be?
No, I get that. And there's so much to break down in that, and so much that I see in that, you know, the winners are willing to do things the losers aren't. And that's really what it is. And I think the other thing too, though, is in sports, we all know how to put points up on the scoreboard. And one of the things I see happen all the time in business is your people don't know how to put points up on the scoreboard. They don't know how you're keeping score. It's a gut feel, you say. Well, that doesn't help them put points up on the board because their gut's going to be different than yours. And so when you hire those people that know what it takes to put the points up, that they know what it takes to lead their team to put points on the scoreboard, I mean, that's what's going to transform things for you. And I like the other part that you said where you have to become the Yankees, because I believe like attracts like.
Yes.
So, you know, if you're playing like a AAA team, then, and you guys are just kind of playing around and hoping maybe someday you get called up to the majors, well, that's what you're going to attract, is people that aren't ready to play for the majors.
People think of you what you allow them to think of you. Mm-hmm. If people think you're a subpar performer and you don't correct that, guess what? You're a subpar performer. Yeah. Because perception is 9/10 of reality. And so you have to show who you want to be. What kind of reputation do you want? I tell my kids, look, you get one reputation. That's it. You sink that reputation. Yeah, you could fix it. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing that's you can't overcome. However, man, there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds that people have to overcome that if you'd have just thought it through a little bit, understand this is the road you have to run on. And there's so many things out there that are uncontrollable that why worry about it? If you can't control it, what power do you have sitting there fretting over it? Mm-hmm. Control what you can control. And then everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, put the effort in where the effort's going to matter. Yeah. And I see that happen a lot. We do, one of the things we talk about is getting employee testimonials and getting employee referrals and getting your employees to speak about you highly. And so, because like attracts like. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen a former employee leave a horrible review or say something bad, and then the owner just goes off online publicly with that ex-employee. And I was like, do you realize what you just did and how hard it will be to clean that mess up? Made you feel better in the moment, but that's not going to help you attract these rock star.
You won the battle to lose the war.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you guys doing over there at Panex? I know that you're not a large company, but you're doing some very large things. And when you need to hire new employees, what's your take? Like, how do you go about finding these amazing people?
I like referrals. I like hey, we want to bring somebody on. Go to your existing crew. You know, do you know somebody who would fit in here? And so that's typically been my easiest. Now, with the people we contract with, a lot of them handle their own. And so I think at any given point in time in our home office, there might be 5 or 6 people in the office. And then in the field, we could have anywhere from 5 people full-time to 30 people, just depending on the work we're doing out there.
Yeah.
And so it's just, And really all we do, we've been in the business long enough, and I won't go into my whole long drawn out story. I've been doing it, since I was 7 is when I knew what I wanted to do. That was my dad took me to the field the first time, made my first sale 3 months out of high school, and that was 31 years ago.
Okay.
And so this is all I've ever done. When it comes to what we're doing right now, we saw market conditions here a handful of years ago that were unlike anything we had seen before, where demand was rising, supply was going down, and there was nothing to replace it with. And, not to get in the weeds, but there were certain things that if they happened, the market was going to crash. And when you look back at American history, every time there has been a market crash, there's been one or a group of people that have come out of the other side looking like geniuses. Yeah. And when you string their stories together, there are really only two common characteristics that they share. The first is that when the crash happened, they were low. They had cash in hand and they could do something.
Yep.
Second, and more importantly, was when their opportunity presented itself, they had the courage to push their chips in the middle of the table and make a move.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting, our powder was dry, and then all of a sudden April 20th, 2020 came, and that was when the oil market crashed. And it did what we thought it would do. It cleared the playing field a lot, knocked a lot of companies out. You couldn't buy it with COVID, and there was a pretty dramatic effect on American oil. Like I said, it wasn't the majors that took that hit. It was your 9,000 independents that averaged 12 employees or less. They're the ones that got nailed on that. And it just created an acquisition opportunity. And from that point till now, we made 23 different acquisitions. We've secured what we believe about 100 million barrels of oil in reserve. And right now, all we're doing is developing and looking to expand those reserves.
Well, I love that. So you're not just worrying about what you're dealing with today. You're thinking about the future. You're planning. You're being ready for those opportunities to present themselves. Not just get caught up in, it's tough today. Or so-and-so called in today and I can't get people. And so you're really keeping that positive mindset, looking forward to the next big opportunity and just being ready for when it happens. Because, we were talking about fairness before we got on the call, and I was telling you that, my kids, they'll always come to me and they'll be like, Daddy, it's not fair. They got this and I didn't get that. And I'm like, who told you life was fair? Who told you that this would all work out equally? I know it wasn't me, so I don't know what TV show you're getting that from. But, things are hard and you got to be ready for it. And you can't be the victim in that situation. And it sounds like that's what you guys are doing over there.
When you wake up every morning, you have a choice on your outlook. You can control you.
Yeah.
And we were talking before the show, and in my life, there have been 3 people who have really shaped who I am: God, my dad, and Rush Limbaugh. And yes, I was a Rush fan. And one of the things I learned from Rush was the fact that, it's easy to complain. Mm-hmm. Everybody on the planet can wake up in the morning and find something to complain about. It takes courage to be positive every morning. It takes courage to get up and find something to be motivated about and be positive about for a day. And everybody knows that. There are some days where, man, you just, you get up on the wrong side of the bed and water tastes wrong. And so, you just, it takes internal strength at that point to shut that side down and focus on the positive. Because I learned a long time ago that when something is off in your life, whether, whatever category it falls in, if you've done everything you can do to correct, at that point, why worry about it? Because when you get done worrying, sweating, fretting, mental mashing, whatever you want to do, when you're done, do you know where you're going to be? Right back where you were when you started doing it. And so give an honest appraisal. Is everything been done to fix this situation, whatever it is? If the answer is no, then do whatever you need to do to get it fixed. But if that answer is yes, well, then you can't worry about it anymore. If situation changes and you can fix it at that point, okay, you can go back and fix it as soon as you can. But don't waste your mental energy on that, because we only have so much. Most people, when they walk into a room and it's showtime and they turn that light on, And that light goes big and bright and blares everybody in the room. And when they walk out of that room, well, they have to turn that light off because eventually it's going to burn out if they keep it on all the time. And so understand there's only so much that you have. And so make sure you're focusing it in the right direction.
Yeah. Taking care of the things that really matter and the things that you actually have control over.
Yeah.
Love that. And, one of the things that I'm real passionate about, as you know, is this being able to retain the labor that we have helping us grow our businesses and taking care of our industry, but also taking care of the people that go home to families at the end of every day and everything else. And there's so much more that I think a lot of companies could do to just control whether or not they're the Yankees, whether or not they're attracting people that should be playing for the major leagues, whether or not those people want to keep playing for you. And I mean, so many of the leadership principles that you've shared on today's show really just align to it. If you want to build a better team, you have to become a better team. If you want to be a better leader, you have to be a better leader. And ignoring these things that consume our energy, like being the victim or blaming others or dealing with circumstances that are outside our control. There's so much opportunity for us to just really take control and build the business that we want with the people that we want.
Well, and it's up to you. I mean, you can have two different types of teams. You can have one team is a family team. One team, everybody's pulling on the rope in the same direction because you care about each other, because, you take care of your employees, you have the health plans, you want to make sure that they feel secure. Well, that's one team. And that team can be just as effective as any team out there. And that's why really nobody leaves those ships, those family ships. Well, the other team is you can have a very successful, cold-hearted, business-oriented team where your employees know, okay, you make X amount of money every week. If you do this, this, and this, you're going to make X plus whatever the bonuses are for that. You do this, this, and this as well, where you're going to make X and that. And you can lay it out, say, hey, here's how you make this much money if you do that work. Well, somebody does that work. Guess what? You better pay them that much money. Because if you do, they're going to be there forever.
Yeah.
Well, you can build your team that route also. But both sides have one thing that they share. You're taking care of the employees and doing what you say you're going to do. And that's how you build a team, is you make sure that they have a reason for being there. They have a stake in the game. And so it's, now, once again, it's up to you to run it however you want. If you want to do the cold-blooded side where it's straight math, you can do that as well. It's a little less personal. It's a little colder when I've lived in both worlds.
Yeah.
And so, it's a little more impersonal. However, it can probably make the owner more money than the family route. However, the family route has some benefits that aren't necessarily monetarily measured.
I'd agree with you on that. And that's where my heart lies and my passion lies, is creating relationships with your people and taking care of their families and the things that are important to them and putting them first. So we don't see the other one too often, but you're right. They both exist. It's just different ways of thinking about it. And there are people that'll work in both. There are people that will do really well in both. RJ, thank you so much for today. There's so many leadership nuggets and so much wisdom in what you're doing. And I can tell that you have a passion for the industry that you're in. How do people connect with you? How do they learn more about what you're up to? Maybe they're curious. They're like, oh, I've always wanted to know more about the oil industry. RJ sounds like the guy that can educate me. Or maybe they've always wanted to invest in, or maybe they just want to reach out to you and just create a connection because you're just a smart guy that gets it. How do they do that?
Well, yeah, you can email me directly. My email is rjburr@panex, panex.us. Another way is we created a website knowing that most people don't know much about oil. We created a website specifically designed for individuals who don't know much about oil. And it's panex.us/learn. And basically on that page, it has Oil and Gas 101, just kind of gives you a general breakdown of the industry. The Oil and Gas 102 describes the tax benefits. I truly believe they're the best tax benefits in investing. Above line deduction. If you made $500,000 this year, If Uncle Sam looks at you and said, you made $500,000 this year and you put 100,000 in a drilling program, Uncle Sam's now going to look at you and say, well, you made 410,000 this year. Now I'm not a CPA. I can just give you general rule of thumb, but, what a lot of my partners do is they'll utilize their money however they want the first 10 months of the year. They'll call their CPA in November to see how much they owe in taxes, and then they'll call me in December to cover. And so that's probably the easy way is to panex.us/learn. There's videos, just kind of, this is the most, it's the most important resource we've ever used. And as I said, when we first started talking, we're all in the oil business, whether you want to be or not. And so what we've learned to do is we've figured out a way that, like I said, we're one of the few areas where the partners can take that flow of revenue and get it reversed. And not only get it reversed, save a lot of money on your taxes for doing it. But the key is who you're dealing with. You got to make sure you're dealing with the right people that, I know past performance doesn't predict future performance, but it does give you a pretty good idea who you're dealing with and what they potentially do for you.
All right, RJ, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I look forward to speaking with you soon.
All right. Ryan, have a good one.
Ryan England here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? Go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.